Hey everybody. I decided to come on here to talk a little bit about silencing survivors. It's just not cool. And I've been sharing my story for about 2 months now, and I've been very active on TikTok. TikTok is the main platform that wants to silence victims and silence survivors. So TikTok has it all backwards. They are specifically in favor of all the wrong things. And it's not just me who speaks about these things. Since being on TikTok, there's been a lot of influencers who, especially activists, who speak upon heavy topics, and when they call it out for what it is, TikTok reports them, or people on TikTok report the content to TikTok, and then TikTok removes the content. So I've had TikTok for about 2 months, and I have been blocked and banned from TikTok 3 times now. And I was first blocked and banned probably about 2 weeks in, and that was for talking about how I've been sexually assaulted, and I was calling out my children's father, and that got flagged, reported, and taken down, and then I was banned for about 2 days. Okay, so then I appealed it, and they brought it back, saying they apologized. But the reason why they took it down was because they said it was harassment and bullying against my children's father, which literally makes no sense. So yeah, they gave me that video back. So then the next video was talking about my upbringing and domestic violence and my childhood trauma, the verbal abuse that I sustained. They took that down, and they still have yet to restore it. That was posted back in June, and they said it was for minor safety. Makes no sense. So then the next video was when I went viral on speaking about child abuse, and it was those 3 young teenagers that I was talking about in a couple of my lives ago. And they took that down for minor safety. And I appealed it, and they have not restored it, and they said that they will not restore it. But yet, that same video where I first found on TikTok, the original video that was posted, is still on there. There's many versions of that original video on multiple people's pages on TikTok that it's still on. Meanwhile, that video has all of the graphic language, song lyrics, all of the abuse that the mother's saying to the children. The audio is on there. My video didn't have any of the audio on there. It was me narrating child abuse and what was being done. But yet my video gets taken down because I'm calling it out for what it is. My other 2 videos that I just spoke about, calling out my children's father for sexual assault, I wrote and spoke about how I was being sexually assaulted. So TikTok does not want anybody calling out abuse, okay? That other video of the mental abuse and verbal abuse and emotional abuse that I sustained in my childhood through childhood trauma, I called that out for what it was, child abuse. And they didn't like that. So they're not restoring that. It's still an appeal, but that I appealed back in June. I haven't heard anything back. So it doesn't look like I'm getting that video back. So they didn't like it because I called it out as being child abuse. So this last video I just spoke about with the 3 teenagers, I called it out for child abuse. They didn't like that. And they're not restoring that. So now the video that I just posted about my abusive sisters, and with the screenshots of all of the cyber stalking and the harassment and threatening messages, the abusive messages that they left on my page, TikTok is classifying that as harassment and bullying when they were the ones harassing and bullying me, and then I go on the video and call it out for what they were doing, and then my video gets flagged. Like, are you seeing the pattern here? Like, it's completely backwards. So then they banned me until Tuesday. This was today, I get this notification. So I was a guest on another person's podcast tonight, and I'm telling more of my story, of what I went through as a child, and I'm listening. She's listening to me. I'm doing her podcast. So as I'm doing that, I get a message from somebody on TikTok being like, wow, you're really banned from TikTok. I can't even message you on there. And I said, what? So I go to my TikTok, a video that I posted in late June, completely like sharing police reports and everything about what my children's father did to me. Completely calling out domestic violence and what I went through, strangulation, suffocation, everything. That video is now reported and removed for community guidelines. Now this makes no sense. It said criminal intent with solicitation. Like, what does that even mean? It doesn't make sense. So yeah, that video is now taken down. I submitted appeal, but because there's multiple community guideline violations, I'm now banned until Wednesday with no messaging people. I can't message people. I cannot post videos, and I cannot go live. So, biggest joke. It's not just me either. I've seen other TikTok videos of activists speaking out, whether that's about race or homophobia or anything regarding the government, anything regarding sexual abuse, anything regarding abuse, they get banned. So this one video I saw yesterday on TikTok was this woman who was regularly posting about her abuser, and how she was giving details about her sexual assault that she encountered. Well, all of her videos kept getting banned and removed. So she decided to try, if she just posted her standing there with note cards explaining how TikTok is banning sexual assault survivors. Let's see if this gets taken down. So that video hasn't been taken down yet. So it's interesting. And, I mean, just the way things are, I'm guessing it'll get taken down at one point, but it hasn't been taken down yet. So it's interesting how that works. And it's definitely people reporting it, whether that being haters, who are like being paid to look for these types of content, and reporting it, or if it's my abusers, other people's abusers, haters in other people's lives reporting this content and then having it being taken down. I mean, in my opinion, I do believe it's my abusers, but I have no way of saying that that's accurate. It's just, it's all of the videos that are either directed at my children's father or my abusive family members that keep getting taken down. So I really don't think there is any irony in that. The only exception is the viral video with child abuse. I think that was definitely haters, like random strangers that did that one. But all the other ones, in my opinion, are my abusers reporting that. So it is definitely frustrating, and a part of sharing my story, and it's going to happen. So I've been really trying to take care of my mental health because in all of this, it's almost re-traumatizing because I've been silenced my whole life. I was just doing this podcast. It's called Survived Podcast, and she's a beautiful woman, and she's asking me all different questions about my childhood, and so many connections were made. I was literally silenced my entire life. I was made to believe that I was crazy my entire life. So something that I uncovered in my support group today was one of the very first memories that I have, and I don't really have that many memories. They're all traumatic memories, but I definitely suppress a lot of memories of my childhood. And I think that my brain was just trying to protect me because of all the trauma that I sustained. But I really only have bad memories. And my family used to comment that all the time. Like, you don't remember anything. You only remember the bad stuff. And, there's a reason for that. I have trauma. But anyway, one of the first memories that I have is when I was 4 years old. So I went to school really young. So I was in kindergarten at 4. My birthday is like mid-September. So I was in the process of turning 5. But I was 4. I was at a Catholic private school. I am the youngest of 4. I was like the guinea pig in my family to try the Catholic private school first. So I was sent to the school. I had a uniform, and I remember sitting in my kindergarten class in my uniform with my jumper on, and it was arts and crafts, and the teacher had us with our scissors and paper, and I remember having a piece of paper, putting it on my jumper, and basically having it like this with the paper on top of my jumper, and I just cut through the paper and the jumper, and the biggest hole on my lap. And I remember the teacher being like, because I stood up and she saw it, and the teacher being like, D'Angela, what is this? And I'm like, I don't know. She's like, well, what happened? I'm like, I don't know. She's like, well, why'd you cut a hole? I'm like, I didn't. So instead, the teacher calls my mother. My mother comes to the school. And instead of my mother like trying to figure out like why I cut my jumper, she just like immediately deemed me as a liar. So that was the beginning of me being a liar. So everything from the rest of time, D'Angela is a liar. So I was a compulsive liar. I was a pathological liar. I was crazy. I was like every single name in the book, but it was always because I lied. So me being this 4-year-old kid, I'm listening to what my family is telling me, and they're telling me I'm a liar. So I'm like, I guess I'm a liar. I guess that's what I am. So I absolutely had mental health issues. But again, instead of my family like really trying to figure that out, they just called me a liar. So I had something with cutting. So it went from cutting my jumper to when the family was in the TV area, the living room, I would cut the blankets. So, we would be laying on all of the sofas, and I'd have a blanket on me, and I would cut. I don't even know where I would get the scissors. Like, would I hide and go? I don't even remember. I don't know if I like sneakily went to go get scissors. I don't remember exactly, but I do remember cutting the blanket and like a big hole in the blanket, and then I would like hide the evidence. And my family's like, what's wrong with you? Like, why are you cutting blankets? And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't cut blankets. And it's so baffling to me because it's like nobody in my family wanted to really uncover why I was cutting blankets. They just wanted to be like, she's crazy and she's cutting blankets. Like, I was just this young kid who needed attention. I was not getting attention at home. I was not getting love. I was not getting affection. I was not getting the support that I needed. So my way of asking for help was, I guess I'm going to cut everything in sight. Like, I even cut a remote, the buttons off the remote at one point. Like, I was just doing anything. And then I would make up lies, and then I was known as the girl who would cry wolf. Like, Nobody believed anything I said. And I was just told that that was who I was. So I went with it. And it's just so baffling to me now as a mother, because with my own children, it's like I see the things that they do. They're children, but my children have trauma, and there's a link to everything. There's a link to everything. So if my son is misbehaving in any type of way, like, for instance, the other day, I went to go take a shower. My babies were still sleeping, but my oldest was awake and he was playing in his room. So I'm in the shower. I come out and he's like, I'm dressed, Mommy. I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, where are your socks? And he's like, I don't have my socks. I'm like, well, why don't you have any socks? I just did the laundry. Like, I just folded the clothes and put all your underwear and your socks in your drawer. Like, so where are your socks? And he's like, I don't have any socks. So then I look at I look at his drawer and there's no underwear and there's no socks. And I'm just like, where are they? And he's like, I don't know. They must be gone. So he's 5. I'm like, okay. I don't really think much of it. My babies are awake now, so I'm changing their diapers and I'm in their room. And then my 5-year-old comes in and he's like, Mom, I really don't know where my socks are. So I'm like, all right, let's go find his socks. So we're looking in the room, looking everywhere. I'm like, where are your socks? Where are your underwear? So he's like, they're in there. I'm like, they're in where? And I go look, and he must have opened up the vent that like goes to the heater. And he opens up the vent and I guess stuffed all of his underwear and socks in the vent. So, you know, obviously with what I went through as a kid, I'm reparenting myself, and I'm also practicing communication and a different way of parenting than what I went through growing up. So I'm like, okay. So I take a deep breath and I'm like, okay. So you put all your underwear and your socks down the vent. And he's like, yep. I'm like, well, why'd you do that? And he's like, I don't know. I'm like, all right. So I'm trying to find, I can see them, but they're so far under in the vent that like I cannot get to them. So now I'm in I called the fire department to see if they could help, because that's just like, I have like the fire department and the police department on speed dial. They know who I am. So they came over with no problem, but they were like, we can't help you because we don't have the tools. We thought that they were going to be like closer up to the surface, but they're not. They're like really deep down. So you're going to have to call like an HVAC company. So yeah, that's the next step, is the HVAC company coming to get all of his underwear and socks out of the vent. But the moral of the story is he had therapy that day. And so, you know, I'm talking to his therapist. I mean, my 5-year-old ended up telling his therapist anyway, like what he did. And I'm talking to his therapist and I was like, I don't understand. Like, we still haven't uncovered like why he did it. So, you know, sometimes my 5-year-old talks to me about things, and other times he wants to talk to his therapist, which I think is very important. Like, I'm one adult in my children's lives. Like, I am away from my abusive family now. The reason why I stayed around them for so long was because they were adults. They were family. And I thought like that I should have, I didn't have, my children didn't have my children's father's side of the family. So I was like, I don't want to take away my side of the family too, because then they won't have anyone. Plus my family used to always like drill it into my head that you don't want to be an outside. You don't want to isolate yourself. Like, you need your family. So you don't want to choose outsiders and all this stuff. So I stayed with them for a long time, like for that reason and for other reasons. But anyway, I'm the only adult and role model that my children have. So it's very important that my children have therapists for their trauma, but also because like, if my son wants to talk about me, he should be able to do that and not feel like he has to hide how he feels about me because he's telling me. So if he needs to talk about me and vent about me, he can do that with his therapist. So anyway, the therapist is talking with him and trying to get down to the bottom of it. Ends up being he's thinking about my children's father. And he gets very angry when he thinks about my children's father, because he was 3 years old when my children's father was arrested, and that's the last time he's seen his biological father. And the memories that my 5-year-old holds on to, I mean, he's 3 and he has vivid memories of the trauma. He remembers everything that my children's father did to him. And he can tell you verbatim what was done to him by my children's father. So that's what he was thinking about. That's what was on his mind. And so therefore, he stuck everything down the vent. Now, I know it's a different time, okay? But I was growing up in the 90s. I was born in 1991. When I was having all of these behavioral issues, at one point my mother was like, okay, maybe she has ADHD. So she took me to do like testing, and it wasn't just me. I think she did that with my brother too, and like maybe my sisters. But I didn't end up having ADHD, and then she just dropped it. So I had trauma. Like I definitely had PTSD, and I went undiagnosed. But instead of like getting me a therapist or like talking to me about it, like, why are you lying, D'Angela? Why are you cutting blankets, D'Angela? Why are you making friends with people that you probably shouldn't be friends with? Why are you engaging in behaviors? I was extremely hypersexual. And that was because I was sexually assaulted. And I was sexually harassed as a child. So that is a trauma response. Survivors of sexual assault become hypersexual. And that is what I was doing. And nobody in my family wanted to, they just deemed me really bad names because of my reputation. You know, I mentioned in my last live that I was taking pictures of myself and sending it to not only people I knew that were in my grade, but my sister's friends, my brother's friends, you know, writing it down in a journal, writing down who I was having sexual interactions with, leaving it around for them to find it, to help me. And instead of helping me, I don't know if they would have known how to help me, but instead of asking me if I was okay or treating me like a human being, they just said how gross I was and how many problems I had, and you know, how dare I do that to them and things, you know. I'm sure that didn't feel good for them, but they didn't talk to me. They didn't try to, and I was just like embarrassed, you know, because whenever they did find the journal, I think I was maybe like 18. I don't remember exactly when they found the journal, but they were just disgusted with me. And yeah, I don't know what I would have thought they would have done, but they certainly didn't ask me if I was okay. I was just deemed this horrible person. Like, how dare I do that? Like, nobody tried to get into the bulk of like, why was I doing that? And that's something that I'm doing differently with my children, is like, okay, my son's putting his underwear and socks in the vent. Why is he putting socks and underwear down the vent? And his therapist and I can help him with that. Help him have the language to tell us and himself as to why did he put his underwear and socks in the vent. So, like I said, I was growing up in the 90s and early 2000s, and maybe my family didn't have the same resources that we have now. And maybe that's why. I'll never know why, but I do know that when I was around my family last summer, they were not open to therapy. Like, my mother strongly disliked the fact that my 4-year-old at the time was in therapy. She strongly disliked that I was in therapy as much as I was in therapy. She strongly disliked me being in support groups. She obviously did not want me in therapy or support groups, but she definitely didn't want my 4-year-old at the time to be in therapy. So I don't think growing up she would have wanted me in therapy either. It's so different because now that I'm a mother, even when my younger two get older, I really want to help them if they need to be in therapy, which I'm sure they're going to need to be in therapy. And that will be the first thing I do, because my oldest started therapy at 3. There's nothing wrong with that. Especially since I am one parent, I'm the only adult in their lives. They need to have other adults that they can trust to speak about whatever they're going through. And now that my son is 5, he is so emotionally educated. Like, he is able to name what he's feeling. That is so rare. Like, I was not taught to name our feelings and name our emotions. It was with domestic violence, it was just, I saw anger all the time. I saw anger, and then I saw my mother with sadness because she was a victim. And I saw fake happiness, but I was not taught about emotions. You're a great mom. Therapy is healthy. Thank you. That means a lot. Therapy is healthy. So now my 5-year-old can name, it's called A Little Spot of Emotion. It's the best book series ever. I think it's by Diane Alber. She's the best. So it starts off as a scribble spot, and it's like red, yellow, green, purple, pink, all orange, all these colors in a big scribble spot, right? And the concept is that is how we feel with our emotions. Our emotions get so tied up into this big ball of all these colors, and you don't even know how to untangle the mess of emotions. So when you feel and you allow yourself to feel the feelings, you can start separating, okay, I'm angry. I'm going to take out the red. Okay, I am sad. I'm going to take out the blue. Okay, I'm confused. I'm anxious. I'm going to take out the gray. Okay, I am feeling love, though. Even though I feel all this, I still feel love. I'm going to take out the pink. Like, you separate every single feeling, and once they're separated, it turns into a beautiful rainbow. And that's the concept. And then she has a series because then she talks about pink being love, and then she has a whole book about love, and red being anger, and a whole book about anger. And it's my favorite go-to book, and my 5-year-old is able to name his emotions and say out loud, I'm just feeling angry right now, Mom. And we work through it. I have my own coping skills. He has his own coping skills. His favorites are probably the wall push-ups, because those help him. He also has a therapy swing downstairs in the basement, it's kind of like a hammock. He has a weighted blanket. He knows how to do deep breathing. His favorite is the ocean breaths. Ocean breaths are great. You sound like a wave. So you breathe in. So it sounds like a wave. So that's one of his favorites. And we do these together, and sometimes he just does them on his own. Or I let him decide, or, I shouldn't even say I let him, because he makes his own decisions. He decides what he wants to do in that moment. It's completely up to him, and it's in his control. He's his own human being. I was not taught that growing up. I was my parents' possession. I must do as I'm told. This is their house. These are their rules. I am their child. They are my parent. I must do as they say. Not happening with me. Nope. My children are people. They are human beings who have their own emotions, who live their own lives, who get to decide what they want with their lives. My 1-year-old, my 2-year-old, and my 5-year-old. All different people making their own decisions. Was not like that for me as a kid. So I may go live a bit more. This is my therapeutic outlet. I am unable to on TikTok right now, so I may come here. And thanks for those who have joined and who will listen later. I just feel so much better. Even just like seeing myself on the camera, hearing myself out loud, sharing it with others, very therapeutic. Hi, how's it going? I was just about to end, but thanks for coming. All right, I'm heading out. Feel free to watch the replay now that you just joined in, okay? All right, thanks everybody. Bye.